4 rounds remain in the Classic IndyCar Series presented by Logical Innovative Engineering, and we head ourselves over to wine country. This is Sonoma Raceway, and they say think outside the oval. And for some drivers who's had to endure a couple of oval races one after the other, this is now a chance for them to get on a firm footing, because there's only now 2 road courses left and 2 oval races. And for these drivers in a championship, which may well be closer than the points currently think, it's now a chance to get yourself ready for that final push to the championship at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Our coverage here on RaceSpotTV and on iRacing Live will start next.
Watch Ernie, go, go, go. Car right, car right, car right, car right. Watch him. Jam it. Get ready. Dude, more heads up than that. Jeez.
Right on the back wing. Can he make it happen?
Yeah! Push like hell. We gotta stay in front of these guys.
Drivers on the push to pass. Contact in the pit lane.
All right, sexy. Let that eagle fly. What do I do? What happened? Push here. Push hard. Let's go get this guy. Car outside. Through behind you. Intel. Clear outside. Good job. Just spun behind you. I don't know if you got him or not.
He got out of it so hard. Look at these guys are all over the back.
Full throttle.
IndyCar. He hit an outlap. What's next?
Come and get the checkers, big boy. Oh, baby, that was good. He hit me. Inside, outside, outside.
2017 Verizon IndyCar Series. See what's next.
Welcome to Outside the Oval. Welcome to Wine County. Welcome to Sonoma Raceway. It's been known as a couple of different things over the years, but we now call it Sonoma once again, like we did when this track first opened. Welcome then to the Classic IndyCar Series here on RaceSpotTV and on iRacing Live. We're going to go running for 75 laps here this evening, or 2 hours. However, we are more likely to get ourselves running to the lap limit today than we were to the time limit a couple of weeks ago at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. A fuel tank here, that's going to do you about 29 laps here today. But this track might pose some overtaking difficulties for drivers. At some points it's very easy to overtake, at others it is very difficult. You've got to make sure that you get your car set up. It takes about half a lap to set your car up to make an overtake here, or you need to be opportunist. Notice the guy ahead of you having an error and pouncing at the right time. Will Vincent along with Jack Stiles, and well, Jack, we had a phenomenal race over at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Now we're heading ourselves over to Sonoma, and this place can eat drivers up.
Oh, it certainly can, and we saw at New Hampshire Motor Speedway just 2 weeks ago that we had some of the most prominent incidents in the series so far. Obviously, that incident between Robert Grossman and Lucas Seville is still going to be fresh in the drivers' minds. But here at Sonoma, it's a completely different beast. You've obviously got turning right again. We're back on road courses. We're back on maybe where a lot of these drivers are going to excel. We're going to see different drivers up at the front that we saw a couple of weeks ago at New Hampshire. But we're also going to see corners which you can see fast sweeping corners such as the complex towards the end of the circuit, and also camber. Camber is going to come into a big play here today, Will, and I think that could maybe unsettle some of the less experienced drivers.
Yeah, we've had a number of different layouts for this racetrack over the years. To say 75 laps here today, 2.28 miles is the current track length. You can see on the graphic on your screen the NASCAR layout, where they essentially on the exit of turn 3B just go straight on into a 90-degree right-hander and kind of shortcut the middle portion of this racetrack. What we do here in IndyCar, we do things properly. We do a kind of more of a 70-degree angle, then we head ourselves into a carousel because we're at an American racetrack. We have to have a carousel before a very tight kind of double apex hairpin track, and that's the corner I think drivers are going to struggle at the most. But then also the kind of third to last corner, that chicane, because it really does upset the flow of the cars quite a bit. And while Sonoma used to be a kind of flowing racetrack, now they're going to have to slow itself down all the way to about 60 miles an hour for that right-left flick.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the NASCAR version of the circuit, you don't have that chicane. It just bypasses it. You get a flowing corner, so you come out of 8A and you just got to go down the hill again and through. But with IndyCar, we have that chicane, and you're going to be, that's a very heavy braking zone. In real life, you're going to be pulling up 4 Gs into that braking zone to get the car stopped. You're probably going from about 150 to 40 mile an hour and about 150 meters. It really isn't that far, and we probably will see lockups today. We might see some slip-ups, but I think that is going to be one of the best overtaking opportunities we have. And also down into 7 and 7A, that double apex hairpin wheel, that's going to be a brilliant pace for people to go diving up the inside to get a manoeuvre done.
We're going to talk about the championship in a moment's time, but first, let's run yourself through your starting grid then for this round of the Classic IndyCar Series. And out front, it is going to be the driver of Claudia's Weed there, number 11 machine, 1 minute 15.907. Robert Grosser alongside him on that front row of the grid. Andreas Werner in third place here today. Henry Bennett on the outside of row number 2. And then cycling on back, you've got yourself in row number 3, Sam Sanders, number 59 machine, and Michele Contentini in the number 66 car. Row 4 has Dave Sistello and Tim Miller with row number 5, Jake Hewlett and Caton Bommersbach. Row 6, Carsten Bodaway and Jos van der Ven. Then you got yourself Randy Shoemake and Luigi Graffini, Timo Isingemi and John Elmsweimer in row number 6. There's a remainder of the result up on your screen. A number of drivers didn't qualify here today. Qualification's very hard at a track like this. That means it's going to be a long race for a few. In terms of the championship, Lucas Seville does lead the championship right now with 309 points over 237 for Henry Bennett. Robert Grosser in third place with 233. But the thing is, Jack, that doesn't tell the full story because of the fact there's not 1, but 2 rear grid penalties that will be taking place for Lucas Seville. And that means he's not racing here today. He's taking that as a drop week. But then the next 2 rounds of the championship at Motegi and Kentucky, that's really going to hurt him. I would argue Motegi more than Kentucky, because while it's tough to overtake at Kentucky, it's even harder when we head ourselves over to Japan.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, when we go to Motegi, Lucas Seville is going to have a very big battle to come up towards the front of that field. We know he has got a rear grid penalty, probably because of what happened at New Hampshire 2 weeks ago. And that means that he has to fight his way to the front to get any decent points. I think we're going to see at least one of the next 2 weeks is going to be drop weeks. Kentucky Motor Speedway, I think it'll be a bit easier for him. We're going to be back on the ovals. We know he's fast on the ovals. We saw that in New Hampshire. So it's going to be easier for him to make up positions, and the same, he's going to be able to cycle through with the cautions and just make his way through the pack over the whole race. But Motegi, I think Lucas Seville is going to have a massive challenge to get up towards the front.
Your keys to racing here today, brought to you by Joel Real Timing, are simple. Keep out of the gravel, the sand, because that basically will end yourself the race. Whilst at other tracks, it might be possible to put 2 wheels off the track and get back on. Not here. You barely lose any speed at all, and there's always a wall or some form of tyre barrier ready to get you. Pit stops are important here today. Work your strategy out and make sure that you count back. And thirdly, be careful on the overtakes. Remember the fact that you've got to set them up to make them work. So welcome then, ladies and gentlemen, to Sonoma Raceway. We are now about 30 seconds away from going green in this event. Our coverage here today, of course, is brought to you by Logical Innovative Engineering, as well as Joel Real Timing. Field now getting themselves lined up 2 by 2. At the front of your field, we've got yourselves a bit of 2x2 all set up. They're going to get themselves nicely sorted out now as they head themselves down towards that chicane. This is the chicane that we've been talking about, just how tight it is. There you can see it on your screen. It's pretty much going to be single file through there. The drivers are trying to make it work too wide, even on the pace lap. They're thinking, actually, you know what? Maybe not. Now they come down towards the final corner. The pace car will pull on towards pit road here. However, the race doesn't start until the lights go green and the green flag waves. So these drivers have got to hold it for a couple of moments. Now they're going to get ready for the green flag here at Sonoma. 75 laps of racing are now underway. Looks as though we've got everyone through turn number 1. Looks as though we've got everyone through turn number 2. Looks as though everyone now working themselves through 3A and 3B for the first time. They got themselves sorted out through there as well. We had 20 drivers take the green flag here today, and the good news is, Jack, they've all survived those first few corners.
Yeah, that's certainly a good thing here at Sonoma. Obviously, turn 1 not that hard. The uphill left-hander mostly flat, but it's going to be that braking zone into turn 2, and then the twisty corners of 3, 3A, and 4, which follows. We see Claudius Veed in the lead as Robert Grosser goes for second. Andreas Werner is going to go back up the inside to get the undercut. Is he going to hold the position? Maybe not. I think Robert Grosser has just taken second place there, going to regain the position that he lost on the start. But Claudius Veed already has a lead of 1.2 seconds up at the front of this field in the number 11 car. And let's see if he can pull away, or let's see if Robert Grosser and Andreas Werner, who, if you remember right back to the start of the season at Barber, made that horrific and heroic charge through the field from starting in the pits at Barber to finish third, I believe it was, Will.
Yeah.
And we know he's fast on the road courses, so expect to see him up the front all day today.
Here's Werner back on board with him. He got second place at the start of this event, lost it, then back to Robert Grosser, now back down into second place. Live timing and scoring, ladies and gentlemen, is available. Just visit RaceSpot.tv/timing. That is now up and working for you. Sam Saunders currently in that 6th place in what is a bit of a pack right now. He's got Michele Constantini just ahead of him on track, Jake Hewlett just behind him as well. This is 5, 6, and 7. They are battling for on track as well. Your Caton Bommersbach versus Randy Shoemake. And how many times this season have we had ourselves a nice little Shoemake versus Bommersbach battle?
Oh, far too many so far, Will. They're always entertaining to watch. Caton Bommersbach, we know, is quick. Same with Randy Shoemake. Tim Miller in the mix there as well, I believe. So this is a really big pack we're seeing in the middle, pack of probably about 6-7 cars, all battling between P8 and P14, all the way from Davis Estelle right back to Jos van der Ven and John Elsweimer right at the rear of this pack, as we're just going to see them all coming filtering down into 9 and 9A for the second time. Obviously, 75 lap race here today at Sonoma, and we've just about completed the first 2.
Yeah, having a look then. The drivers going fast, the very slow actually, in comparison to NASCAR, run down to the final corner, even though the IndyCars have more acceleration because of the fact that they can't really pick up much speed between the chicane in towards that second to last corner. You end up in a very different situation heading yourself down into the final corner. Let's talk actually about the number 36 car, Evan Fitzgerald. There we can see him right now battling it out with Sam Whitten. And actually, no, we're not going to talk about Carsten Bodaway. He's the first driver to loop it here in this motor race. And let's get ourselves a replay of that one if we can, because Luigi Graffini seems to be off track as well. So there is the back end of the incident with Carsten Bodaway. Now we're going to go on board of him. And this is the run down in towards turn number 1. I'm wondering whether the issue between himself and Luigi Graffini are the same or 2 separate issues. At this stage, I'm going to say that they are going to be 2 separate issues. Yeah, Carsten Bodaway looping it all by himself then, down on the exit of turn number 2. Luigi Graffini on the exit of turn number 2, in towards turn number 3, 3A. Had some form of an issue. Does he? Yeah, he just loses it there on the exit of 3B. Loops that car around, grinds it to a halt there, number 77 machine. But Graffini, for the moment there, ended up in a little bit of an issue because he lost the most places out of that.
Yeah, he did. And Broadway just proving that these cars, if you get too much power down at lower speeds, you're going to send them around. But Graffini, one of the things you said at the start, or before the start of this race, Will, was stay off of the gravel because it will spit you round and it will make you spin. Graffini just went into that gravel on the outside of 3B, and round he went, just as you said, because the car cannot grip and you cannot get the traction down. And if you cannot get the traction down, where else are you going to go but in circles?
Jake Hewlett are on board of him right now, and the number 3 machine. Hewlett, a new driver to the series. We'll talk about him in a bit more detail as we go through our webcast here. Currently in P number 7. You'll see a lot more of him over the course of the next year or so, though, as a part of the Coanda Simsport stable. But right now, just heading himself down towards the chicane that we've been talking about oh so often today. Sam Sanders and Michele Constantini just ahead of him as they now come down towards the final corner. And you can make an overtake here, but the issue is, compared to the NASCAR layout, the braking zone's so early that it's very difficult to make a move unless you're going to do it on the exit of the corner, which is exactly what Hewlett's going to try and do right now on the outside of the corner in towards turn number 1. Inside line will favour you in towards turn number 2, and Hewlett should just about get the move, but no, a bubble there under braking will allow the number 59 machine of Sam Saunders to just retake that 6th position for the time being.
Yeah, definitely good try there by Jake Hewlett in that number 3 car, just taking advantage of the 59 who just ran a tiny bit wide coming out of the final corner or turn number 11, and just going to put it out the inside. Those two drivers doing very well to stay side by side for as long as they did. But Jake Hewlett, I think, is a brilliant addition to the VRS Coanda Simsport team, and I look forward to seeing him in future races. But going back to the race we have here today at Sonoma, he is definitely not giving up. He is still on the tail of that 59 car, just looking for an opportunity to get by.
Yeah, Randy Shoemaker's found the new dance partner. That is in the form of Hans Pitkänen right now, 13th place going on track. There's John Elmsheimer there in the mix as well. As we have a look from the rear of John Elmsheimer, there we can see him in the number 88 machine. And just heading ourselves through this battle, the gap between Elmsheimer and Shoemaker is currently scored at about... actually, now it's gone up to 1.2 seconds. Elmsheimer's having a fantastic lap here. And just having a look through, then you've got yourself Shoemaker versus Pitkänen. That is down at 0.4 of a second. The gap from Pitkänen back to Luis Ambini, that though is up to 7 seconds on track. One thing we haven't yet talked about is your race leader. He's kind of just drifting away like we so often see, but he's got a 2.2 second advantage right now over Robert Grosser in that number 11 machine. And last time by, he was 1/10 of a second faster than Robert Grosser. So he's putting out a steady gap, but not an insurmountable gap.
No, certainly not. We just seen Jake Hewlett manage to get past Sam Sanders because Sam Sanders lost the car coming through turn 10. He went for a little spin, Will, and he's also lost a position, dropped down to 10th position behind Davis Estella, Caton Sponsors, and Jos van der Ven. So he has definitely become a cropper there, and Jake Hewlett has already got his eyes set on his next target. Michele Constantini, winner last time out in New Hampshire, probably not as good on the road courses as he is on the ovals, but he's still doing very well up there in 5th position. But Jake Hewlett is catching him by quite a margin. Although he was slower on that last lap, he's already got to within a second of him.
Yeah, and for Sam Saunders, he just kind of got into the apex of turn number 1. He's like, I've got no grip. And rather than trying to attack the apex and risk looping that car around, he just pushed it into the gravel. And that's a smart move in some ways. It's very rare we say, just put that car into the gravel. But actually, he did the smarter of the two moves there. Because if you attack that exit apex and then you loop that car around, you lose about 7-8 seconds. Realistically, Saunders lost about a second and a half, as he right now is scored behind Jos van der Ven, and Van der Ven turn around there down at turn number 1.
I think that may have been just... Did he get the power down on the curve? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think he did exactly what I was saying, what he shouldn't do. So let's have a look. Catches the entry. Oh, no, he just catches that yellow line. Doesn't attack the curve, just runs that right wheel on the yellow line between the track and the curb. Just gives him no grip at all, loops that car around, and now he is all the way down in 14th place. You can see he's struggling to put the traction down as he's still got all that dust and dirt on his tyres right now.
Yeah, I mean, Sonoma, it's in the middle of the desert, so it's going to be covered. Dust and dirt is going to be everywhere. We've seen this at other circuits. So Quite notably, one that I think of got a lot of being in the middle of the desert and quite dusty and dirty is Bahrain, where they have the Bahrain Grand Prix. But we're getting that same thing here, is if the tyres get dirty because you run wide or you have a spin or whatever, or you just get offline, it's going to take about a lap for them to clear and to be able to regain 100% grip on these tyres. And obviously as we're going through, we're only on lap 8, but these tyres are already going to have probably about 30 kilometers of wear on them already, maybe even more. So what we're already seeing is worn tyres, and maybe they're getting quite hot in the desert temperatures. We have a 44-degree track temperature here today, so the track is hot, the grip is probably lower than usual, and I don't think the desert sun is helping either with just getting the tyres even hotter.
No, 44-degree track temperature is very hot. I mean, 44 air temperature is what caused a lot of airplanes actually in the Sonoma region, Arizona, in the San Francisco, the Los Angeles area, about a month or so ago, to basically cancel flights. If you want to know how hot 44 degrees is, if that is the air temperature, it's so hot that planes cannot accelerate through the air in time to do a proper safe takeoff. There's your random fact of the day here on RaceSpotTV. Having a look down though, Tim Miller, of course, has been a driver who's been a stalwart in this series for so many years. Been a stalwart in things like the ISOWC IndyCar series, the RFJ IndyCar series. This guy probably, I would argue, has more league races in this car than anyone else. Currently running in P number 12 versus Randy Shoemaker right now. Last lap time by Tim Miller, 120.968. And I think that he does get a run, actually, of Shoemaker out the final corner, because Shoemaker just completely botched that one. It was so bad, it might have ended up in Botch Mania.
Oh, wow, yeah, that's certainly true. But the 06 car of Shoemaker definitely made a hatch of that last hairpin. Tim Miller getting closer and closer as we go through every single corner. But Tim Miller and Randy Shoemaker, they both help each other on these circuits. Randy Shoemaker said when he was talking to me after the race at New Hampshire last week, or 2 weeks ago, that had he not had a help from Tim Miller, actually, he would have been, like he said, a rolling chicane. And I think that helped. Also, Tim Miller, you said, was probably one of the most popular, or done quite a lot of league races, but also I think he's happy to help people, and I think that's the nice thing about this series is other drivers help other drivers, and it just makes the series flow a lot better. We don't see as many incidents. We do obviously see incidents. We see it in every series. We see it in the Pro Series every week, but I think something like this with what I call grassroots league racing, because it's not a big league and there isn't an entry fee either, I think it's just nice to see other drivers helping people out.
I completely agree. We've got 20 drivers that took the green flag here today. 22 drivers attempted to qualify for this event. Sam Winton is the only driver currently scored one lap down in this event. That's because he's made himself 2 pit stops here today of 1 minute 51 seconds. We're on board right now with Andreas Werner versus Robert Grosser. And what I want to do is bring up the lap gaps here. And you can just notice that Werner's just starting to chip away like a woodpecker there on Robert Grosser. Gap is now down to 3/4 of a second between these two drivers. But I think that one is now in that dirty air, that he's either got to go into conservation mode, and you can do that here. Go into conservation mode, save some fuel, save your tyres for a couple of laps, and wait for the pit cycle to kind of favour you. Or he's going to have to do 2-3 big laps and see whether or not you can try and find a way past. I think the former is the better option here today. It sounds really boring for the viewers. Just wait until the pit stops. But a track like this, it's as much a thinking man track as it is a driver's man track. And you just see there, the graphic coming through your screen, he lost 2 tenths of a second there because of that dirty air.
Yeah, certainly, and we've seen these races before go down to pit stops, and races can quite often be decided by pit stops, as we've just seen Tim Miller in the number 2 car. Just as I was talking about him, he spun coming out of the chicane, just getting the power down too early, and he is down to position number 14 in that number 2 car, behind Carsten Grovway and Jos van der Ven, who is now within a second of Randy Shoemaker, fighting for that position 11 and 12, but Shoemaker currently holding off Van der Ven, who is recovering from his moment earlier on. But this lead battle we're seeing between Andreas Werner and Robert Grosser, I think Henry Bennett wants a bit of this as well. Well, that number 41 car in 4th place, he's on the back of him. We've got a 3-way fight for second.
He is slowly coming into the picture. It's Henry Bennett as well. We've got to talk about championship implications as well. Of course, Henry Bennett, Robert Grosser, they both want to win this race here today to start tightening the screws on the driver of Lucas Seville. Lucas Seville not running here today, taking it as one of his drop weeks. 2 drop weeks are allowed in this series, but of course, Lucas Seville will have penalties when he returns to action at Twin Ring Motegi in a few weeks' time. So if Bennett was to win here and Bennett was to win at Motegi, this championship, a bit like what we saw in 2011 with the comeback from the driver of Dario Franchitti over Will Power, the championship blows wide open.
Yeah, it does. I mean, obviously going off what we saw 2 weeks ago with what happened between Lucas Seville and Robert Grosser, and then obviously the accident that happened after that as well, which took Robert Grosser out of the race, that turned the championship on his head for Robert Grosser. But he still has an opportunity to come back. If Lucas Seville has a bad couple of races at Motegi and Kentucky, we could see the likes of Henry Bennett and Robert Grosser fighting for this for the championship as we go to the final round in Las Vegas. And I think that round in Las Vegas, it is going to be whoever gets the best position is going to come away with the championship, because I cannot see, unless some miracle happens, Lucas Seville being able to hold off and having the championship secured before we go to Las Vegas.
Yeah, and one thing that's worth noting, actually, you know, the last couple of years we had this IRA 5 machine. I'm going to put Las Vegas to one side for a moment. We often saw the driver who led the championship coming out of Indianapolis generally wasn't the driver who ended up winning the championship overall. And this is the difference. We talked before we came on air between Penske and Ganassi. Now, you said that this is the first time since Nazareth in 1994, in 2011, that the three Penske drivers scored a 1-2-3. But the thing is, you know, generally, the Penskes were always the better team on the road courses. If we look back for the annals, 2008, 9, 10, 11, they were the better team on the road courses. But then Ganassi were the better team on the ovals. The way this championship works, if you are a quote-unquote quasi Penske driver here today, well, this is your chance to win, so to say.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, obviously, as you said, this is the Sonoma back in 2011 was the first 1-2-3 for Penske since 1994, and I think that just shows the strength of Penske. We probably still see it today with the DW12 and also the new. I think we're going to probably see a very similar thing with the new car that's coming next year. But what we see is Penske is a very strong team on the road, almost as if they're building their team for the road, whereas Ganassi, they're more oval based, they're more oval orientated. As we see that the number 77 is going to impede the 41 coming through the chicane. Henry Bennett is not going to like that. He has now dropped back 1.8 seconds off the back of Andreas Werner in the number 28 car. So that has lost Henry Bennett a lot of time being stuck behind that number 77 car coming through turn number 9. But yeah, I think it's definitely clear to see that Penske are a much stronger team in real life on the road courses. But it's just also probably down to the drivers. And yeah, I think Penske maybe have the stronger drivers for the road.
There's a replay of what we just saw there for Henry Bennett in the number 41 machine. And again, you know, you look at what we saw last night at Gateway. Penske are, we've got to be honest, they are a good all-round team. They are fantastic when they need to be on the ovals as well. They've just lost out in clutch situations over the last couple of years. You compare them, for example, to likes of maybe a Stanford, really good until they come into clutch situations. I only say that, I was too busy watching Stanford football play race in Sydney last night. But Claudius Weed leads away right now. He's now got a 3-second advantage, and Dave Costello loops around. We're talking about Penske. Well, there's the Penske car. Number 12, as driven by Will Power in 2011, loops it on the exit of turn 3B. Just listening to the engine note for him, he just grabs the curb. That's the reason why. Now, most of the curbs here, Jack, are low curbs. Well, the one that he ran over is one of these few high curbs at this track, designed to stop people kind of cutting the course down at turn 3B, and he just fell victim to it.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, obviously, there are circuits in the world where we do see high curbs. One of the probably the biggest ones is the Nordschleife. And as you were saying, cutting the curves, we see that, if anyone knows Knockhill in the UK, cutting the curves as you come over the top of the hill. Every single driver does it. It's common practice. And I guess what they tried to do here was to stop people doing that. And unfortunately, Dave Costello has hit that on the inside, and that has unsettled the car. These Indy cars are not very sensitive to bumps. And if you just unsettle the car very slightly, you're going to be going round, you're going to be going for a spin. So Davis Costello drops down to position number 7 and has been dropped into the clutches of Michele Constantini in the number 66 car.
Jake Hewlett, sorry, I'm going to say it again. Jake Hewlett and Keita Mommersbach are your two biggest movers inside the top 10, except for Johns Elmsheimer, who have moved up 7 places here. Sam Saunders having a bit of a difficult day. He started 5th place, now running in that 10th position. You got yourself Shoemaker up 2 places, Pitkanen up 3, Evan Fitzgerald up 5 places, and then Luigi Graffini. We talked about his woes already today. Tim Miller having a tough day as well, started 8th, now running in that 14th position. Lap number 15 of 75, and we're not far away from talking about pit stops. We're actually around about halfway through that first fuel run here, Jack, because a full tank of fuel can get you anywhere between about 27 and 29 laps.
Yeah, and I mean, back in 2011 in the real race, obviously the conditions would have been different back then, but we saw about 26, 27 lap stints, so we're going to be seeing roughly the same here today. Carlos Speed still out ahead with a humongous lead now, up to 4 seconds over Robert Grosser and Andreas Werner, who are still fighting out for 2nd and 3rd place, and by the looks of it, Andreas Werner has gone into 2nd, getting past Robert Grosser, coming through turn number 4, but Robert Grosser's gone right, coming out to 3B, just getting onto the gravel, cannot get the power down, and lost a lot of time, so Andreas Werner up the inside in the 28 car, driven by Ryan Hunter-Reay in the 2011 season, and he is up into 2nd place. Robert Grosser drops down to 3rd.
Yeah, let's get ourselves then a replay of this one. We go on board then with the driver of Andreas Werner. You can see it is as simple as that. He just moves that car down to the inside in turn number 4 and is able to complete that pass without any issues at all. Andreas Werner then moves himself up into that, what we're now going to call it, 2nd place on track. So Andreas Werner having a good race, but we do know one thing here. Andreas Werner over the course of the season has been involved in situations of his own making, which has put him out of the motor race. Now, if you're Andreas Werner, I would argue, Jack, you might want to think about making sure you get to the end of this one.
Yeah, certainly. He has that 2nd position. We know he's strong on the road courses, so if he can just hold this 2nd position off from Robert Grosser, as long as he brings it to the end, I think he's got a solid 2nd position. But Robert Grosser is going to be kicking himself at the moment because he knows he wants that point for 2nd place for the championship. Andreas Werner hasn't been to as many rounds this year as we probably would have liked him to because we know he's strong. And because of that, he's not a big player in the championship, but he can certainly unsettle it. He can certainly upset it. And him being in 2nd place is going to just push Robert Grosser down and definitely not going to help.
Yep, so here we are then, lap number 17 of 75 here on RaceSpotTV and on iRacing Live. We're going to step aside for a couple of moments here, but don't worry, we'll be back with more in just a couple of moments' time.
Watch Ernie, go, go, go. All right, all right, all right, all right. Watch him, watch him, watch him, watch him. Damn it! Get ready. Dude, more heads up in that. Jeez.
Right on the back wing. Can he make it happen?
Yes! Yes! Push like hell. We gotta stay in front of these guys.
Both drivers on the push to pass. Contact in the pit lane.
All right, 60. Let that eagle fly. What do I do? What happened? Push here. Push hard. Let's go get this guy. All right, outside. Through behind you. Tell. Clear outside. Good job. Just spun behind you. I don't know if you got him or not.
He got out of it so hard. Look at these guys are all over the back.
Full throttle.
IndyCar.
In and out lap.
What's next?
Come and get the checkers, big boy. Oh, baby, that was good. He hit me. Inside, inside, outside, inside, outside.
2017 Verizon IndyCar Series. See what's next.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, here to Sonoma Raceway. Don't forget, later on this evening, we've got more racing action coming your way in terms of Sunday night skippies here on RaceSpotTV and on iRacing Live. That kicks off at 8 p.m. GMT. So, one thing that happened is Andreas Werner got himself past Robert Grosser. What we haven't yet seen is Andreas Werner really close up the gap to your race leader of Claudius Weed. In fact, get this here, Jack. The last 3 laps, almost half a second's been lost by Werner to your race leader.
Yeah, I'm just looking at my timing screens, and last time through, Claudius Weed was 0.2 of a second faster than Andreas Werner, and Andreas Werner did his fastest lap of the race so far. He did a 1:17.333. That's his fastest lap that he's done so far in this race. We're now on lap 19, another 56.5 to go. I don't think no one can match the pace of Claudius Veed. He just seems to be very strong at this circuit, Will. And he's got the fastest lap of 1:17.022. No one's been able to break into the 1:16s yet, but I would not be surprised on a low fuel run. I think they can do it.
Now, we talked a few laps ago about Henry Bennett being held up big time by the driver of Luigi Graffini. We're on board right now with Henry Bennett. He's trying to catch up to the rear of third place driver Robert Grosser, and this is a championship battle going on right now as we just see a driver getting so far out the way. I'm not quite sure what he was doing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good that drivers just get themselves out of the way of faster cars, but sometimes I think they need to just choose good places to do it.
Yeah,
that's one thing that drivers I think do slip up on this in this series, is choosing their places to let people by coming into tight turns where maybe there isn't as much road. I don't think that's a very good idea. Obviously, I'm a big endurance racer, so I always run on the rule of keep to the racing line, the faster car will make their way by you. That's the unwritten rule almost in endurance racing, and I think that should be it across all racing, but unfortunately we don't see that. We do see slower drivers getting out of the way. But as long as they do it safely and don't cause an incident, I don't have any problems with it.
Well, yeah, and there's also what I like to call the Road Atlanta rule that comes into a track like this as well. In some cases, you are just going to lose, 2-3 seconds, and there's nothing that can stop you. As though we can just see a replay of Andrew Adair Saunders. He's out of the motor race right now as a consequence of that crash down at turn 3B. Live timing and scoring still is available. Just visit RaceSpot.tv/timing. But, the Road Atlanta rule really does kick into play here, I would argue, as Shoemake then comes on towards pit road. And this is... Actually, no, he's not. He just lost the position by the looks of it. So we can get ourselves a replay of that one for you. But talking about that Road Atlanta rule, you've got to understand sometimes that you are going to be in a position when, Shoemake's just looping it on the exit of turn number 2. You are going to be in a position when you go through lap traffic when you are going to lose time, and there's nothing you can do about it.
No, I mean, I think whether you are the faster car or the slower car, you're always going to lose time in traffic. That's just something that you have to take as a given and work with it. But, I mean, traffic is part of every single motorsport. We see it in the top tiers, we see it in Formula 1, we see it in the World Championship Grand Prix Series, which we cover here on RaceSpotTV. And especially in endurance racing where you have different classes, something like the Neo Endurance Series, which we've seen in the past, where we've had LMP cars, GT1 cars and GT3 cars last season. Obviously it's going to be LMP and GTE for this season, or for the upcoming season, sorry. And just seeing how those different classes react, you're always going to lose time in traffic, whichever class you're in. And when it comes down to when everyone's in the same class, everyone is going to lose time because you're all driving the same car, and essentially you've all got the same car under your belt. It's just how you manipulate the car around the circuit.
As Henry Bennett sets the fastest lap of the day, 1:16.954. So we're talking about Bennett struggling to make time up. Well, he's making time up right now, the fastest driver on track for the moment. And let's have a look at the comparison for the lap times. Well, he was about 0.3 of a second faster than Robert Grosser there, and that brings the gap down to 1.3 seconds. If you're Henry Bennett, though, you kind of got to time this charge. I've been talking about this being a thinking man's race, a strategic race. And if you're Henry Bennett, the last thing you want to do is have Robert Grosser coming towards pit road the same lap as you. You either come on a lap earlier or, more favourably, come on 2 laps later to try and do the undercut there. Sorry, the overcut, as it would be in this situation. But I think Bennett's now in a good situation. He wants to get himself past Robert Grosser, of course, because of the fact that if he can do that, he can start challenging Andreas Warner. Warner and Weed are not really in this championship hunt right now. Bennett and Grosser are.
Yeah, certainly, and I think the two drivers who aren't in the championship race are currently leading. They're currently top 2. As all the number 4 could be in pit. No, number 4 stays out of the way. The number 4 car being Andrew Adair Saunders, not having the day he wanted, down in 19th position, 3 laps down on the leader of Claudius Veed. But Claudius Veed and Andreas Werner, they are not in any way, shape or form in this championship battle, and they're in the top 2 positions. That's where Henry Bennett and Robert Grosser want to be, because that's maximum points. That's maximum points they can get back on Lucas Laville, and they want to be taking advantage of the fact that Laville isn't here today, and they can't, because there are 2 drivers who aren't in the championship race who are quicker than them.
But on the flip side of that, of course, you've got to remember there's only going to be 3 rounds remaining in this championship after this one. Motegi, Kentucky, and Las Vegas. And bidding your car as a consequence of trying to push too hard, well, that would literally put your entire championship on cold ice water for the time being. This is not going to be a good lap, though, for Henry Bennett. Look at the traffic ahead of him. He's got himself now 1.3 second gap to Robert Grosser, but he's got traffic moving to the right-hand side. That's a good thing. But there's more traffic there that's going to just impede Grosser a little bit on the entry to the corner. But the 06 machine there, the Newman Haas racing machine of Randy Shoemake, just going to allow the inside line for Henry Bennett then into the final corner. Red Atlanta syndrome. This is what I've been talking about, Jack.
Yeah, I mean, we're just seeing people getting out of the way for the leaders, and they're doing the sensible thing, letting them through where there is a lot of runoff coming down into turn number 11, as we've just seen the car number 4, and Andrew Adair Saunders having another issue coming out of turn number 11. He is not having the day he wanted today, down in 19th position. But going back to what you said, Will, we're just seeing drivers get out of the way as, it looks like Robert Grosser's got stuck in some traffic, got stuck behind the number 2 of Tim Miller, but he is just going to get out of the way for him, let him by on his way. Henry Bennett, I'm going to presume, same thing. Yep, Tim Miller just runs a little bit wide. So Henry Bennett back to 1.3 seconds behind Robert Grosser and is about 8 seconds off the lead.
But what you noticed there is that Grosser didn't really lose any net time in that traffic, and actually this goes down to what makes a pure IndyCar racer. Talk about the oval racing, of course, it's traffic management, being able to work your way through the field. In road course racing, it's about qualifying well, keeping your cool, but also traffic management. And Grosser there just ticked off all the boxes those last couple of laps because, yeah, his lap time slowed, but didn't slow as much as some of the other guys around him.
No, I mean, Andreas Werner was quicker last time through, 118.3. Claudius Veed. As we see Henry Bennett coming onto pit lane. This is a bit early, isn't it? Lap 24.
Yes, but remember what we were talking about, the fact that maybe you want to do an undercut or overcut. This is 1/3 race distance right now, so maybe Henry Bennett is going to throw everything to one side, realize that traffic may be an issue over the course of the next few laps or so, bring that car on towards pit road when he can do so, and now he's going to roll the dice. And we've seen Bennett do this before this season, but I would say that if he comes out in clean air, he's golden. If he comes out in traffic, it's game over for Bennett. Stop then for him. 6, 7, 8 seconds, revving the engine, over to 10.8 seconds, out and away he will go. And now you got to merge back onto track. It's a difficult merge point here. Through turn number 1, through turn number 2, and you know what? He's got absolutely hundreds of yards of clean air on either side.
Yeah, I think he's got about a kilometre each side of clean air. So just in the number 2 of Tim Miller go round at turn number 7A. That double apex hairpin having another issue, not making today his day, I don't think. But Henry Bennett, I think, has definitely timed his pit stop to perfection there, coming onto pit lane and just having all that clean air that he needs to be able to lay down some fast laps. Maybe trying to get that undercut on Robert Grosser, who we probably won't see onto pit lane until much later. Robert Grosser doing the fastest lap that he has done of this race so far, 117.172, quicker than the 2 cars ahead of him on that last time round. Maybe showing that his tyres are in slightly better condition than the 2 leaders. But let's see what other people can do coming into the rest of this race.
Tim Miller hit the classic 8,000 RPM rev moment there, as we now got Louis Zambini and Sam Whitten on towards pit road. Here is Tim Miller down into 15th place after that spin. Here is Robert Grosser. He is currently 2.4 seconds behind the driver of Andreas Werner, working himself past more traffic. And this is what will help the driver of Henry Bennett, the fact that there's no traffic around for him at all. The number 77 machine's about to be lapped for the second time here today, Luigi Graffini. And, well, the way Robert Grosser's catching him, it might well be into the chicane. And this is the worst place. And this is exactly what I mean. I mean, Grosser was lucky there. He didn't lose too much speed, but had to take a very tight apex into that chicane. And as a consequence, I would say lost maybe 2-3 tenths of a second.
Yeah, definitely. And I didn't just caught the tail end of that there, Will. I didn't see the start of it, but the 77 car didn't really do a very good job of getting out of the way. Robert Grosser having to dive to the inside, not taking the optimal line through that chicane. Would have lost him some time to the car of Jake Hewlett behind him. But we're just going to see he's going to stay out now onto lap 27, so we're well past the 1/3 distance of this race wheel. And I think Robert Gross is in for the long run on this stint.
Yeah, and it'll be about 2 laps before these drivers come in. Around lap number 28, 29, we were predicting here this afternoon. We're on board with John Elmsheimer, just trying to make a little half move over the driver of Sam Saunders right now as they come through the chicane down towards the second to last corner. Keep an eye out. Pit road as well here is so difficult if you've got a driver just ahead of you. The reason why is you can blast it for a good 200 and 250 yards, but of course then you've got a driver who's slowing down to take the corner.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, the closing speed for Robert Grosser onto Luigi Graffini, or any back marker really, is going to be quite big, because he's going to be coming down from probably much higher speed than they are, because he's going to know how to take more speed through the corners and how to push his car a little bit further. And maybe I think that's the difference between people like Robert Grosser, who we see up the front, and people who we see a bit further down the field, just having to get out of the way of other people. I'm not saying they're bad drivers, they're perfectly good drivers. I mean, anyone who can drive this car and drive it reasonably fast, I'll give credit to, because I can't. And any IndyCar is hard to drive, so these cars are definitely a different whole kettle of fish and different beast to tame compared to GT cars, which I'm used to. But you're just going to see people who are going to be able to get that tiny little bit more speed out of it, are going to have that little bit more advantage.
Claudius Weed went purple that last time by 116.936. First driver to do a 116.9, well, the low 116.9 this race. Andres Warner 116.968 that last time by. Would have been fastest lap had it not have been for the number 11 machine just punching his ticket to go purple. We're on board with Weed right now as Jake Hewlett is on pit road in the number 3 machine. We've been talking about him quite a bit today. Recently joined Commander Sim Sports, recently joined the Classic IndyCar Series here at Sonoma, but now for Claudius Weed, he will head himself down. Will he go straight on? No, he'll take the corner. What about the driver, though, of Andres Warner in second place? Is he going to? No, he won't. Robert Grosser is going to do another lap as well, so they'll all be pitting next lap, Jack.
Yeah, we're going to see the 3 leaders all on pit road at the same time. We're going to have a very good race on pit road here, and it's all going to come down to who's going to be able to get the fastest pit.
It's not for the first time this season, but Andres Warner has spun it. What did I say earlier on in this broadcast, Jack? One thing Andres Warner had to do was keep that car clean, but he losed it down at turn number 2, just drifting through the corner there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He lost about 6 seconds. He will fall behind Henry Bennett at this rate.
Oh, wow, that's, I mean, just looking at it, I think he's had a little bit of luck of the commentator's curse there. He just took far too much speed into turn number 2, and round he went in that number 28 car. And, yep, I do believe he has dropped down. He's dropped down to 4th position by the looks of it.
We've got Michele Constantini as well, who just completely butchered his pit road entry. We're talking about you go flat out through that sequence of corners, so through the final corner, and then take the hairpin later on. What you don't want to do is, as Constantini almost actually caused a 4-car pileup, the speed he was taking, he just rubbed that outside Armco barrier. He's now having to get some repairs for that car. Why not just rewind that tape for a second more and show it to you how close this was? And this is what I mean by when you come in towards pit road, you're going so much faster than other drivers. There's the number 88, 59, the 12 car, all going at it. Constantini closed and literally was about half a car length from running into the rear of that number 88 machine, as we do expect Claudius Weed on towards pit road this time.
Yeah, they've gone round for another lap onto lap number 30. Same with Robert Grosser, same with Andreas Werner. As we just see Henry Bennett is going to complete his 29th lap in just a few seconds' time. But Claudius Weed now coming up to turn number 7. He currently has a lead of around 7.5 seconds according to my timing screens when they decide to work over Robert Grosser in second and Andreas Werner, who has dropped 10 seconds back from the lead, in third. I think he's going to drop behind Henry Bennett there, Will.
Yeah, I've got, as I said, that's what I was thinking of there for the driver of Andres Warner. And again, the dirt, the dust on those tyres as well, wouldn't going to help him as well. On board then with Claudius Weed, and he stays up for another lap. So the intel that we were getting was a little bit wrong, shall we say. Here comes Robert Grosser. Grosser's though on towards pit road. Here he comes.
Werner's gone for another lap.
I think Werner needs to, under these circumstances.
Yeah, he does, because I'm just trying to work it out in my head. And I think maybe Robert Gross is going to drop behind Henry Bennett. I'm going to keep a close eye on my timing screens now. I obviously get live timing and scoring from Joel Real Timing, one of our sponsors here to the Classic IndyCar Series. And the person who gets the least amount of incident points throughout the race will win a Pro Key to JRT. And I must admit, Will, I don't know whether you use it as well, but it is a great aid to any iRacer, and I recommend it to anyone.
Indeed, so JRT, fantastic from what they do. Out and away comes Robert Grosser. Where is Henry Bennett? The answer is Henry Bennett is still behind. The gap,
3 seconds.
3.5 seconds. So Grosser then went clutch. But we did expect this. We've got to explain this to the viewers, so especially who are new to kind of IndyCar racing, of course. What the driver of Henry Bennett had compared to Robert Grosser was about 4 laps of carrying around a full tank of fuel. Now that will hurt him because of the fact that Robert Grosser was on about 15% fuel compared to a full tank. That's going to cost you a good couple of seconds. It's not a second a lap or so, but it's about 6/10 of a second a lap there that the driver of Henry Bennett lost, which is to be expected. The issue is though, because Henry Bennett came in so early, what's he now going to do for the rest of this race?
Yeah, certainly, and I mean, he is now about... I mean, Andreas Werner's gone for another lap, so it's going to be 2 or 3 laps before I can give you a good gap to the lead, but Henry Bennett is currently 3 seconds behind Robert Grosser, but Robert Grosser is going to have more fuel, he's going to have more weight, so maybe Henry Bennett can gain back second and a half over the next few laps, but we're going to see this thing where Robert Grosser is going to be able to run lighter towards the race, which means he's going to have less weight, and on fresh tyres he can set down faster lap times.
8.8 second pit stop there for Claudius Weed. Interesting to note that pit stop was 3 seconds faster than Robert Grosser, 2 seconds faster than Henry Bennett. So Claudius Weed there maybe looking for a short middle stint here today. He comes out in a current second place. However, we've yet to see Andreas Werner come on towards pit road. He should do so this time by just after he comes through the chicane, which he's doing right now, and then heads himself through this right-hander, which isn't quite flat out. You want it to be flat out, but it isn't, and then you just dive it down. Turn that car to the right-hand side, hit the commitment cone, and on towards pit road, Werner comes. One of the things you hear more and more often is there is a pit limiter in these Indy cars. However, you can kind of manipulate the pit road speed a little bit just by kind of utilizing a mile an hour here and half a mile an hour there, just to make sure that average is as close to perfect as possible. Andreas Werner then on towards pit road. It'll be interesting to see, A, does he stay ahead of the driver of Henry Bennett? We're going to find that one out now. The answer is no, because Henry Bennett is past. So we knew that one. What about Jake Hewlett? He's ahead of Jake Hewlett.
Yeah, Jake Hewlett is still rounding out the final hairpin. He hasn't actually crossed the line to start lap 33 yet, but Claudius Weed has gone back into the lead of 12 seconds now over Robert Grosser. All he needs to do now, Will, I think, is just keep it on the grey stuff, and he's got the win. But as we've seen here at Sonoma already, even the top guys do make mistakes. Andreas Werner, we saw coming out of turn 2, he has dropped 17 seconds behind the lead, but he is only about 2 seconds behind Henry Bennett now.
Yeah, he is. And we're just having a look through. Robert Grosser currently second place, 3.3 between himself and Henry Bennett. Bennett to Werner, 1.5 seconds once the gap stabilizes. We're looking at Caton Bomber's batch. We're going to give you a lap on board of him and RaceSpotTV fan immersion. Today's coverage of the Classic IndyCar Series here on RaceSpotTV is brought to you by Logical Innovative Engineering, the title sponsor of the Classic IndyCar Series for 2017. Everything Logical Innovative Engineering do is designed to bring you closer to the action with real-to-life racing parts designed to give you the best sim racing experience. Our coverage is also brought to you by Joel Real Timing, the driver with the least incident points in every single race in the 2017 Classic IndyCar Series will receive a Pro Key for Joel Real Timing, and you can experience it now by searching for Joel Real Timing on Google. So here we are then, lap number 35 of 75, getting close to halfway here on RaceSpotTV for this round of the championship. And I'm just having a look, like we often do, Jack, at the time, and I'm thinking that we will, for once, be able to finish this race, have a breather, and then let myself get ready for 2K World Cup, taking place in 1 hour and 10 minutes time.
Yeah, certainly, obviously 2 weeks ago at New Hampshire was a bit of a rush. We couldn't get the post-race show into the normal coverage. That went up as a separate video as, on the RaceSpot channel just a couple of days after the race. But with 36 laps down, we have 39 and there's a smudge over and all the clippings left to go. And, well, I think everyone's starting to settle down into this now. Claudio Speed still has a humongous lead at the head of this field, now 14 seconds over Robert Grosser. And Henry Bennett and Andreas Werner are scrapping it out for third.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting now with Andreas Werner versus Henry Bennett. The reason for that one is, of course, Andreas Werner is not in the title hunt here today, but Henry Bennett is. So if you're the driver of Henry Bennett and Werner makes a lunge down to the inside of you, do you defend or do you just let him have it?
See, if I was Andreas Werner, if I was Henry Bennett, I would defend it because that is my championship points. We know Andreas Werner strong. He's been running right up at the front and the sharp ends of this field so far today, Will. And for someone like Henry Bennett, who maybe knows he isn't as fast around here at Sonoma, to be able to hold off Andreas Werner, I think for him that's going. Oh, he's just gone wide coming into the chicane.
But this is what I was going to talk about. You know, Andreas Werner. I've got to be careful here because this is the guy that makes my graphics. But for Andreas Werner, to be objective, how many times have we seen an unforced error from Andreas Werner over the course of the last 2 seasons? This isn't the first time. He's just lost another 3 seconds into Henry Bennett. If I was Bennett, I'd let him through because there's a chance that Werner might make another unforced error.
Yeah, I mean, he's made 2. He's made them both in about the last 10 laps, hasn't he, Will? So I think Henry Bennett, I mean, he's now got a bit of a gap. He's got 3.2 seconds, so you're going to be looking at another 10-15 laps before he's going to be back at the sharp end of this battle for third. But maybe for Henry Bennett, do you take that gamble and let him through and just hope that he makes a mistake, or do you defend? Do you defend your rightful position in third and try and hold on to those points, which could be vital for this championship battle come Las Vegas in just 6 weeks' time?
Shout out to George Gibbs Jr. and Timothy Petito on our YouTube channel. Hope you're having yourselves a nice race here. Watching us in the Classic IndyCar Series. Having a look then through your field. Hans Pitkänen versus Carson Bodaway. There's a battle going on. Bodaway's got some damage then to the left part of his rear wing. Hans Pitkänen looking to try and take advantage of that one. It's a DH car versus a Finland car. We normally talk about this sort of stuff when we come to the World Cup of iRacing. Well, we got it here happening now, Jack.
Yeah, certainly, and obviously we're seeing some great battles throughout this field. Some bit further down, 12th, 13th and 14th between Carson Bodaway, Hans Pitkänen and Tim Miller. What have you got, Will?
They just made contact. Pitkänen was trying to take an ultra-tight line down into the hairpin. Carson Bodaway taking the wide line. The two just made wheel-to-wheel contact. I don't think that's going to hurt Pitkänen too much, but a little bit of close racing there going on between these two drivers.
Yeah, definitely, and maybe a bit too close for comfort. We saw, correct me if I'm wrong, Will, but we saw Hans Pitkänen right up at the front of the field at New Hampshire just a couple of weeks ago, making advantage of all the cautions that we had towards the end of the race. He's down in 13th today. He's not having the day maybe that he wanted. Same with Carson Bodaway, and certainly for Tim Miller in 14th. We know he is much better than that in this car. But Hans Pitkänen, I think just a little bit too aggressive coming through 7-7A. And although it doesn't look like he's picked up any damage, you can't tell that from what I can see, Will.
Yeah, and also Pitkin and taking a very weird line there through turn 3B. But this is what I think a lot of people love about IndyCar racing. Is like, you know what, 3 weeks ago we were on an oval at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Now we're on a road course. We're going to a very different road course at Twin Remote taking in a few weeks' time. Then to two ovals, which on paper look very similar. They're both 1.5 milers, but they are very different in practice. Kentucky Motor Speedway, for example, 14 degrees for banking, and it kind of looks like what I would have drawn as an oval, kind of drunk when I was about 18 years old. Then you go to Las Vegas Motor Speedway, more banking, 20 degrees, different asphalt, and it means that every race that we see in this campaign is very different. A lot of people think, oh, the ovals are all the same, but you think back to the ovals we've had in this season so far, and actually I would argue that is completely the wrong assertion.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, we do see a different type of racing on the ovals, and we see different people up the front. Michele Constantini, who we saw win at New Hampshire Motor Speedway, he's got 2 wins in this series, but I believe both of them are on the ovals. And he's down 7th today. Okay, he's up 3 positions on where he started, but he's about 1 minute 15 back from the lead, so he's not as strong on the road courses. And I think that just comes to show that to be good at IndyCar and to win at IndyCar, you have to be quick on the ovals, you have to be quick on the roads. And I'm going to make an IRL reference here, but we know Fernando Alonso, he's a double F1 World Champion. I'd love to see him do a season of IndyCar, Will, because I think he could be actually up the front of this championship. We saw him at the Indy 500. He was certainly strong on the ovals, especially with only 2 weeks practice, and for him to come away with almost for leading 30 odd laps of that race and unfortunately having that engine failure, for him I think that is a great confidence boost, and if he was to go into IndyCars, I'd love to see him do a season.
Well, you did hear what he was like today at Spa. Don't talk to me for the rest of the race. But, you know, having looked back at the ovals we've had this season, of course, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the 2.5 mile juggernaut that everyone knows, everyone loves, as Carson Broadway pushes very wide there on the exit of the final corner. This will allow Hans Pitkinson the opportunity to maybe make a move into 1 and 2, but no, not quite close enough. We've also had ourselves 2 races at Texas Motor Speedway, 24 degrees of banking, just less than 1.5 miles in length, depending on how you're going to measure it. We've had ourselves Iowa, the bull ring, the 7/8 of a mile racetrack, and then of course you've also had New Hampshire Motor Speedway, just a shade over 1 mile in length. The 2 courses to come, yeah, they're 1.5 miles, but as I said, they are 2 very different 1.5 mile racetracks that will demand 2 different types of driving. It does seem that the Carson Broadway there is really feeling the pressure now from Pitkinson, but also from Tim Miller, who's only just a couple of moments behind, as Ron Elmsheimer seems to be now out of this event.
Yeah, he does, and he just seems to be on pit road. He's been on pit road for about 1 minute and 13 seconds, so I think that might be the end of the day for the number 88 machine, which is unfortunate for him. He was doing quite well, and he's just slowly dropping down the field. But Henry Bennett has managed to catch back up to Robert Grosser surprisingly quickly, actually, Will, and he's already challenging for that 2nd place, and he is... Well, sorry, no, that was between Andreas Werner and Henry Bennett. Henry Bennett has managed to catch up to 2nd place for Robert Grosser, so we've now got a 2nd place battle between the 2 championship contenders.
Yeah, and there's the moment we just saw on your screen for the driver who I can't see anymore on my screen, but we were just showing it to you there. What happened was the number 4 machine of Andrew Ederson just had a half spin, and what that did is it caught up the driver on pit road right now of John Elmsheimer in the number 88 machine. So that's what happened to him. But there's the gap then, Robert Grosser to Henry Bennett. And whilst that has happened, the driver of Andreas Werner hasn't been able to actually close back any of that gap. So, all of a sudden, Bennett's gone from playing defense to playing offense.
I think he's going to be playing offense because I think Robert Grosser will be in defense mode because he will want those 2nd place points. Now, these 2 have got everything to lose here at Sonoma. This is their big opportunity to get back into the championship battle with Lucas Labille, because Labille isn't here. And I think Bennett and Grosser, well, they might go conservative, they might respect each other, or they could go all out and we could see a humongous incident. Obviously, we won't want to see that. That would ruin the championship for us and for the viewers at home who are watching, obviously, on RaceSpotTV. But I think Henry Bennett will want that second place points, but so will Robert Grosser, and I don't think you'll see Robert Grosser giving up those points very easily.
No, as there is Grosser versus Bennett, 6 tenths of a second right now. The issue is, of course, now for Bennett, he is just trying to work this out now, getting close to 18 laps on his fuel stint, which is about 6 laps shorter, so 6 laps longer than what Robert Grosser is, because Grosser came onto pit road on lap number 30, did we say, compared to lap number 25 for the driver of Henry Bennett. So that's part of the reason why Bennett is closing in. And actually, I would argue that Bennett needs to make a pass in order to maximise his strategy.
Yeah, certainly. And going back, obviously, what you said about stint lengths, Henry Bennett has done an 18-lap stint length, and Robert Grosser has done 12. Claudio Svid, obviously the shortest one at the moment with 11. So he was obviously the last person to come onto the pit lane. So Henry Bennett is going to have 6 laps less of fuel, so he's going to be able to run slightly faster laps, 2 tenths faster on that last lap. Now within 4 tenths of Robert Grosser. I think Robert Grosser might be just trying to save some fuel here, Will.
Yes, and that will work really well for him, to be fair, but he's got to make sure that he doesn't make a mistake whilst all of this happens. We're on board then with that driver of Henry Bennett once again. 7. Nothing through there. I mean, that's the thing, though. The dirty air here at Sonoma does make it very difficult to overtake, especially for this sequence of corners. I mean, this is the closest I think America gets to having a kind of Maggots and Beckett's complex. That sweeping right, left, but it does really play havoc on the dirty air.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, obviously, we have Maggots and Beckett's in the UK with Silverstone, but it's rarely ever 32 degrees in the UK, especially at Silverstone. And the air we're going to see here is much thinner than because of the heat. And actually, I'm going to go back to what you said earlier, Will, about a few months ago, planes not being able to fly in this desert because of the heat. And I think the same is going to apply to these cars, where the thin air is not going to be able to produce as much downforce. And because of that thin air, the car just cannot stick to the ground, so you can't go through it as fast. So Henry Bennett really having struggled with that dirty air. There's not going to be the air there to keep that car solid on the ground fast enough to be able to get up to the back of Robert Grosser and make a pass.
Yeah, and there's 2 things that come into play there. It is the air temperature, but also the relative humidity on track. And there you can see it's 71% humidity here today. And to give you an example, I think the easiest thing to compare this to, Jack, is when we go, of course, to Interlagos. Because of the fact that their tracks at altitude, it's generally high humidity and high track temperature. That makes it very hard sometimes for drivers to overtake. But here, you got 2 of the 3. It's not high altitude, but it's very high temperature and it's very high humidity. That means that these drivers are having to use more fuel, but also having to use more of their engine power to get up to, let's say, 150 miles an hour than they would do at 65 degrees and 0% humidity.
Yeah, certainly, and the humidity does come into this a lot. It's going to maybe increase the fuel burn a bit more, and also mean that people are going to have to run different downforce settings, which obviously could change the fuel strategy. And I think one of the reasons maybe that we saw Claudio Svid run longer was the fact that he is running a different downforce setting to everyone else, so he can just save fuel a bit more. As we see Robert Grosser looking like he's getting a little bit stuck in traffic, but I do believe that is the car of Davis Asello, and he's just going to let them buy that number 12 car, getting out of the way very sensibly. But Henry Bennett looking up the inside, coming into the carousel, not going to be able to do it this time around. That number 1 machine of Robert Grosser going to be able to hold that second place for now. The 41 just sitting there in 3rd, waiting for an opportunity. Coming down to 7. No, Grosser's got a bit wide. Is Bennett going to try and go down the inside? No, he's not. Grosser shuts the door. That number 1 again just managing to hold off. Robert Grosser's definitely in defensive mode now as they come down into that sweeping left and right down towards the turn 9 chicane.
Yep, so Grosser versus Bennett then. P2, P number 3, and these are the drivers who are 3rd and 2nd place in the championship respectively. We're going to take a moment. Here's Bennett! Loops it around into the wall. That could be championship over for him. What's going to happen now? He comes back on track. He's lost the position to Andreas Warner. How much damage is there to that race car? Just a little bit of front wing damage. He should be able... No, he's on towards pit road immediately there. So Henry Bennett, championship now for him, hanging in the balance.
Yeah, certainly. He's just got a little bit of front wing damage. I'm riding on board with him at the moment, and from what I saw, that was again just a case of too much power. not enough grip, Will, and round he went, dropped down to 5th place. And yeah, I think that's his day going to be over. Is he going to try and get that car fixed and get back out there? I'm not sure. He's going to come to a stop. Car goes up on the jacks. Yeah, he's going to go back out and try and regain as much points as he can. But for now, Henry Bennett, I'm not sure what his championship's going to look like.
Well, here he is then, out of the chicane. Just loops it on the exit. Just touches, and I think the part of the issue was there was a little bit of suspension damage caused to him there, which necessitated that pit stop. But Henry Bennett then down into P number 5, 10-second pit stop for him. He does come back out onto track, but now he's in P number 5, and now Grosser has got himself a 4.2-second cushion over Andreas Warner. So, drama here at Sonoma as we're about to step aside for one moment. We'll be back with more after these messages.
Racing, you wanted the best, you got them for abreast, often imitated, never duplicated, the greatest show on dirt, the World of Outlaws.
Watch Ernie, go, go, go. All right, all right, all right, all right. Watch him, watch him, watch him. Jam it. Get ready. Dude, 4 heads up in that. Jeez.
Right on the back wing. Can he make it happen?
Yes! Yes! Push like hell. We got to stay in front of these guys.
Both drivers on the push to pass. Contact in the pit lane.
All right, 60. Let that eagle fly. What do I do? What happened? Push here. Push hard. Let's go get this guy. Car outside. Through behind you. Tell. Clear outside. Good job. Just spun behind you. I don't know if you got him or not.
He got out of it so hard. Look at these guys are all over the back.
Full throttle.
IndyCar.
The in and out lap.
What's next?
Come and get the checkers, big boy. Oh, baby, that was good. Hit me. Inside, outside.
2017 Verizon IndyCar Series. See what's next.
2 rounds remain in the 2017 Verizon IndyCar Series. Next round will be September 3rd, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. The IndyCar Grand Prix at the Glen. You can catch that on the NBC Sports Network, on Sports Nation 360, and of course on the Advanced Auto Parts IndyCar Radio. Final round of the championship September 17th, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, also on NBCSN, SN 360, and the Advanced Auto Parts IndyCar Radio. You can also catch it across Europe on the ESPN app. Let's go through your field here then on RaceSpotTV, and let's start off with Andreas Warner on towards pit road. So Warner's in there, Jack. 50 laps
Yeah,
in,
he's-
so he's got 25 to go.
It's 26 laps to go. He has done 17 laps on that middle stint. That's very short, actually. I'm almost surprised at that. Maybe he is going to go and try and do the long game here. We saw Lucas Leville do the short middle stint at Interlagos if you think back to April of this season. So I think that's an interesting move by Werner, and one that could pay off. 8.3 second stop for him back out. 35 seconds on pit lane. He is going to filter back out in 4th place.
Let's not forget, though, Andreas Warner had himself a couple of moments, shall we say, in that stint, and that might well have just upset parts of that car, maybe the wing, maybe the suspension or something. Needed some tweaks to that car to be good to go to the end of the event in that DHL Kmart Sundrop car. So the number 28 machine then falls down into 4th place for the time being. He is, though, still ahead of Henry Bennett after his almost championship-ending crash down on the exit of the second to last corner.
Yeah, definitely. And Henry Bennett now is only about 7 seconds behind Andreas Werner, so he obviously hasn't lost much time, but I don't know whether he can run to the end. He's 4.5 laps into this stint. He's going to be running about a 29-30 lap stint. We have seen him do that before, so I think his accident happened at precisely the right time for him to make this work. But let's see what he can do. I think a little bit of fuel saving is going to be needed from Henry Bennett, but that promotes Jake Hewlett up into 3rd for now. Robert Grosser is going to hold on to 2nd, but Claudius Veed up at the front of this field will 25 seconds. What more could you ask for?
Not much there as we start to run through your field here, presented to you by Logical Innovative Engineering and Claudius Weed then 117.438 that last time by, as he goes to do another lap number 51, going to be score complete by him now. And for Claudius, it seems to be, you know, pole position, lead the race, don't get into any issues, game on.
Yeah, certainly, and Claudius Veed is doing a brilliant job up at the front of this field. He has kept it going cleanly all race. Haven't seen one mistake from him once. He is dealing with traffic brilliantly, setting the fastest laps of anyone at the moment. He's the only person at the moment who can currently be and consistently be in the 116s. He's set the fastest lap of 116.826 now, Will, and his last lap was a 116.852. So he is consistently in the high 16s, and I would expect him to stay there because he is by far the fastest person out on track.
Robert Grosser might not have been the fastest driver on track here today, but one would argue he'll be one of the more consistent drivers. He's withstanded pressure from Andreas Warner as well as Henry Bennett in today's race, but he's the driver currently running in 2nd place, 3rd place in the championship, and well, he knows how to tie together the end of a championship campaign. That is what Robert Grosser is doing right now. Yeah,
certainly, and Robert Grosser, we know he's challenging for the championship. We know him and Lucas Leville are definitely up against it with each other, and he is currently sitting in that 2nd position. He is quite comfortable in that 2nd position with about 12 seconds over Jake Hewlett in 3rd, so I would not expect to see him drop any further unless he makes a mistake, but he also has that almost like margin for error, I call it, Will, that if he does make a mistake, he has time to lose. But Robert Grosser, we've seen all season, has been clean, he's been brilliant in these cars. He obviously understands them. He's also the organiser for Classic IndyCar Series, so I'd expect him to spend a lot of time in this car. But in 2nd position, yeah, I can't fault him so far today.
No, as I said, he's also withstood a lot of pressure. Jake Hewlett, first time in the series here in that number 3 machine, running in the number 3 position. Just joined Coanda Sim Sports, and well, a good outing for him so far. We've not really talked much about him, but actually, if this is your debut, actually the one thing we don't want to have happen is the commentators spending their entire race talking about how good or how bad you are on track.
Yeah, certainly, and obviously, if Jake Hewlett has quite recently joined VRS Coanda Sim Sport, we know he's pretty decent. He's got an I rating nearly 7,000 on the road, so you would expect him to be quick, and he is definitely showing that here today. He is 3rd position. He has been up there fighting with these drivers all day. Okay, I don't know what his previous IndyCar experience is. Well, you might have a little bit more understanding. You're a little bit more involved in the IndyCar community than me, but I think as we see, Claudius Veed is onto pit lane for his 2nd stop with 22 laps remaining. Yep,
so let's turn our attention over to that then. Here is Claudius Veed on towards pit road for what will be his final time, lap number 53 of 75. Coming down on towards pit road, and let's get a look at that pit time for you. First pit stall, of course, for him. Does make it slightly more difficult coming out of pit road, actually. But here is Weed. Going to do his service in a total time of 8.3 seconds. Out and away he goes. Down into second place for the moment, but that's because of the fact Robert Grosser has yet to pit.
Yeah, certainly, and obviously Robert Grosser, I'd expect to see him down onto pit lane within the next few laps. We have 21 laps of this race remaining, so far into the pit window now, Will, and everyone can pit now and everyone can get to the end. Henry Bennett may be the only one who I'm thinking might have to do a little bit of a splash and dash, but I would not be surprised if he is obviously saving fuel, because these cars have different fuel modes, which means they can use more or less fuel each lap. You can change it by each lap. Obviously lap times will probably reflect that as well. Henry Bennett, we're looking at his lap times, they're in the 1:17, so I expect him to be not saving fuel at the moment. He is definitely pushing to try and gain up some time that he's lost. But Robert Grosser going to currently be leading this race, but he is yet to pit. Claudius Feed coming out about 6 seconds behind him, 7 seconds behind him there. Got a pit stop 8.5 seconds. I would expect Robert Grosser's to be slightly shorter than that, as he has now done 24 laps. Jake Hewlett, probably he's the driver on track at the moment with the longest stint. He is 27 laps into his stint at the end of this one, Will.
Yeah, let's talk about Werner, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about the 28 machine, who set himself a couple of spins here today, but he's still in 4th place. He's still got the car pointing in the right direction. Andreas Werner, and again, I think this is the whole thing. If we do a takeaway from the season for Werner, it will be unforced errors that might well have cost him the chance of going for a championship.
Yeah, certainly, and obviously we saw at Barber at the start of this season, he qualified pole, I believe, if I remember rightly, but he started from the pits and he had to work his way through. I think he did make a couple of mistakes through the race. He ended up finishing up at the front, 3rd or 4th, and I don't think we've seen him since, actually, Will. And no. He's also come back into Sonoma. Maybe he's a little bit inexperienced with this car, and he's obviously just not feeling it today. Sonoma is obviously an extremely difficult circuit, and it's one of them circuits that you really have to spend time to learn. You have to be almost like be one with the track, and just you're starting
to sound like a Hankook Tires commercial.
Yes, certainly, and but I think that is actually how you've got to be around here, because that's the only way to drive it. That's the only way to understand it.
Be one with the car, and the car be one with you. Henry Bennett currently runs himself in 5th place then in that number 41 machine. And well, Bennett, again, will be a victim of his own mistakes here today, because he was actually closing right up to Robert Grosser, but then pushing too hard, he lost it by himself, no outside interference, and as a result of that, cost him, I'd say, about 11 seconds in this event. Those 11 seconds, I think, will come back to haunt him. Not now, not here today, but when we get ourselves to Las Vegas Motor Speedway and the screws are really turned against him.
Yeah, definitely, and obviously Las Vegas is going to be the final round of the season. We're on oval, so we're going to see different people up at the front. Maybe not the likes of Claudius Feed and Jake Hewlett, who we know are fast on the road course. Maybe a bit unproven on the oval side. We're going to see Michele Constantini back up at the front, and it's going to be interesting to see how those different drivers actually play into the championship battle. Lucas Laville, we know is fast on the ovals. Robert Grosser, we know is fast on the ovals. Henry Bennett, we know is fast on the ovals. Those three are going to be certainly fighting for the championship. Michele Constantini is definitely going to be throwing bolts into the works and really messing it up for them. Maybe throwing spanners into the works, making it interesting, and that's what I love about this series. But am I right in saying we just had Claudius Feed round coming out of turn 10?
You know what? You might well be right. Let's try and get ourselves a replay of this one for you. Replay Claudius Weed, turn number 10. Let's see what we can find. We're on board of him.
Same mistake as Henry Bennett by the looks of it. Too much power, not enough grip.
Yep, and this comes back down to any IndyCar driver who's run this car for long enough will know there's the 8,000 RPM window, when you've got to be very careful going from 7,000 to 9,000 RPM, because if you do it too quickly, you end up literally looping that car. The worst example of this I ever saw was actually at Texas Motor Speedway. There's 3 ludicrous speed drivers who had actually got themselves 1, 2, 3 for a restart. They all looped it. It was literally synchronized spinning, Jack.
I mean, I must admit, synchronized spinning with 3 drivers, that must have been impressive, Will. And as you said, these cars, once you get into the higher RPM brackets and you do get all the power of these engines down, you haven't really got elsewhere to go. I'm not really sure how much power these cars have, Will. You might be able to tell me that, but I certainly know it's a lot.
A lot, as we just saw another car turned around there. That was Michele Constantini. We're about to talk about him, but Michele Constantini, he loops it himself and almost loops it again, trying to get the power down on the exit of the next corner. Replay then up for Michele Constantini, as I presume he will be on towards pit road. Indeed, that's exactly what he's doing right now. So replay, Michele Constantini. Right, left, power, spin. I'm sure you can make a dance song out of that.
I'm pretty sure you can, actually, Will. Just get a very nice rhythm and you can make a very attractive dance song out of that. And you're seeing a lot of drivers, and also a lot of the quick drivers, just slipping up coming out of that turn 9 and 9A chicane. And I wonder whether people just cannot, or maybe the tyres are coming to the end of the stint. But Jake Hewlett, he's on his 30th lap of his stint, Will. I'd expect to see him onto pit lane this time.
But don't forget, his first stint, he was very short. He was 25 laps, as Constantini does indeed coming towards pit road. And I would say as well, the thing about that chicane is more people that spin there, the harder that corner becomes, because, of course, more dirt, more dust being pushed out onto the racetrack. No cautions here today. It's been a pretty clean race, so we've not had to use the safety car. But it would mean that every time a driver makes a spin, it means that that corner becomes more and more difficult for other drivers then to go through.
Yeah, certainly, and as the dynamic tracks here on pit road racing. Yeah, Grosser's on pit road, same with Jake Hewlett, so they both come onto pit road at the same time. Let's see what they do. But going back to what I was saying a second ago, dynamic tracks makes it that going through a race, the track will change. More rubber will build up, it will become either slipperier or more grippery. The dirt will come onto the track. We see that a lot in 24-hour races, and you'll see the same at Laguna Seca coming into the corkscrew. As we see Robert Grosser exiting pit lane, he is going to feed back out in second position, I do believe, nearly being collected. I believe that's Carson Bromway in the 78 machine. Jake Hewlett going to come out in third. So, well, no, he's going to very late there lose it to Andreas Werner. So Werner back up into third there. But Robert Grosser, he's got a nice lead out there for second. Claudius Feed, still about 26 seconds or 22 seconds now at the front of your field.
Yeah, he lost a couple of seconds because of that spin that he had down at the 10s. But for Jake Hewlett, if you know that the driver ahead of you has had 2 unforced errors here today, how hard do you push him?
See, if Henry Bennett knows he's had unforced errors here, and he's not clearly not one with the car and one with the track here today, Will, I think Henry Bennett's just going to sit back and wait, because he could get 4th place position points if Andreas Werner makes another mistake.
Yep, so Hewlett currently in that 4th place. He does 7.8 second pit stop compared to the 8.1 second pit stop there for Andreas Werner. Gap is down at 4/10 of a second. Warner, of course, is slightly... Actually, no, they're going to have the same weight in their car now to go to the end of the motor race, but Hewlett will have fresher tyres by 9 laps, and this will allow Hewlett to look down to the inside. Cannot make the position. Not just yet, but that was his best opportunity. Car spun around. That's Luigi Graffini there, number 77 machine on the exit, apex of the corner. That's going to cost Hewlett the opportunity to make a move into turn number 2.
Yeah, it definitely is, and I think that's just unfortunate there for Hewlett, and something which will annoy him, but he's just going to be able to sit there, wait for that opportunity. Oh, getting close, coming up into turn number 3 and 3A, coming down into 4, that 70-degree right-hander, going down then down towards the carousel. I think the best opportunity to get past him, Will, is coming down into turn number 7.
On board with Hewlett. And they almost make contact once, they almost make contact twice there. Hewlett's so much better on the noisy pedal compared to Andreas Werner. He's going to look to the outside and can't do anything just yet, but the cutback might work well for him.
No, Andreas Werner just shut the door there on Jake Hewlett in the number 3 car, but Hewlett clearly much better on the gas pedal coming out of the carousel. And, well, we nearly saw a repeat of what happened between Lucas Laville and Robert Grosser back at New Hampshire. Car just getting to a bit earlier on the power, a little bit more speed into the back.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to have to deal with for the next few laps here. Hewlett looking, and again he almost runs into the rear of Andreas Werner into the final corner. He just seems to be so much better onto the brakes, so much better onto the power is Jake Hewlett. He's just got to find his way through it. And remember what I said at the top of this broadcast, Jack? Takes you half a lap to set up a pass here, easily.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, there's only 2 or 3 passing paces here at this circuit, and you have to just time it right. He's definitely close coming through 3. He's going to be even closer coming down into 4. No contact. They're going to keep it nice and clean. Single file as we run down through 5 and towards 6 in the carousel. Going to be dealing with a little bit of traffic in just a minute's time, consisting of Carsten Brovway in the 78, Tim Miller in the number 2, and then Caton's Bombers Bastion in the 67, but they are a little bit further. They're going to go side by side coming up into 7-7A. Hewlett to the outside, Werner to the inside. Is Werner going to be able to hold it? Brakes glowing as they come through there, and yep, he is. Werner's just going to be able to hold it in that number 28 car and actually put a little bit of a gap on Hewlett as we come through the sweepy bits down towards the 9 chicane.
Yeah, just for the moment he's able to do so. Hewlett not going to be close enough into the chicane itself, but actually Hewlett makes a mockery of that corner as well as they come through into 10. That does now give Andres Warner a little bit of breathing space. They head themselves then down into that final corner, and Hewlett loses a couple of tenths of a second for a moment, but that lap traffic will come into play now.
Yeah, certainly, they're catching that very, very quickly as Caton's Bomb Factory is now exiting turn 2 as Andreas Werner is entering it. Jake Hewlett could be able to just make up some time or even get a pass down coming through traffic as we see the number 77 of Louis Graffini having another issue coming out of the chicane at turn 9. So that turn 9 chicane definitely popular with mistakes.
Yeah, Dave Costello then coming out of pit road for his final time here today. And down into 8th place, 7.1 seconds behind the driver of Michele Constantini. Constantini up into the 7th place then, Costello down into P number 8. Best battle we've got on track, by the way, ladies and gents, is the one we've got between Hewlett and Warner. Live timing and scoring though is still available if you want to track your favourite driver through the course of the last 13 laps of this motor race. Just visit RaceSpot.tv/timing. He thought about it there. He really did think about it down into the chicane, did Jake?
Yeah, he certainly did. You could almost see it in the way that he was driving the car to say, I'm going down the inside, but Werner just shut the door, coming down into the hairpin for the 62nd time. Just 13 laps left of this race. We're definitely coming to the closing stages now here at Sonoma in the Classic IndyCar Series. Jake Hewlett still trying to look down the inside of Andreas Werner coming up into turn number 1. Going to be on the brakes for the right-hander into 2. Oh, Werner's gone wide.
What's that, number 3 in terms of unforced errors here today?
Yes, I believe so. He just took a little bit of a wiggle coming through turn 3, ran out on wide, and the number 3 of Jake Hewlett has got up into 3rd. Henry Bennett going to try and benefit from that. No, maybe not. He's still 1.47 seconds behind, but Henry Bennett has been able to close up this gap to Andreas Werner and Jake Hewlett because those two have been fighting and had slower lap times.
Yeah. As here's a replay then. He just got the wiggle. And again, though, what Warner did was what he should do in that situation. Rather than trying to overdrive the car and risk a spin, he just pushed it out to the gravel instead.
Yeah, definitely. And he just got out of the way and let Jake Hewlett up the inside. That is good driving there from Andreas Werner just to avoid that incident. And that's what we like to see. That's what we like to see from front runners is, okay, they make a mistake, they accept it, they get out of the way and they try and just settle the car back down and get some grip back in the tyres. But I think it's Jake Hewlett will just drive off into the distance now. What we've got to look out for is Henry Bennett. He is 6/10 away from Andreas Werner, whose tyres are still going to be dirty from that little excursion up at turn 2.
Filthy. Here we are then, Henry Bennett versus Andreas Warner. Let's give you a lap then. RaceSpotTV fan immersion. Henry Bennett then still behind the driver of Andreas Warner. We are down to 10 laps to go out the line. I want to give a couple of quick shout outs. First of all, to everyone that went to the IndyCar race at Gateway yesterday. You guys put on an amazing crowd. And also to probably one of the best voices in broadcasting right now, Mario Leno, because you know what? You might have been shafted by JPL, but you put on a fantastic commentary last night on what was a joke of a boxing broadcast. But you know what? Mamma mia, everybody. Mario at his very, very best. We've got ourselves then no real battles going on, except for the one that you see on your screen. Here is your top 8 on your screen for you right now. Claudia Swede leads away by 21.2 seconds over Robert Grosser. Jake Hewlett in 3rd place. Andreas Warner in 4th. He's in that battle that we've been showing you with Henry Bennett for the time being. Sam Saunders, Michelle Constantini, and David Cicello all scored 1 lap down. Drivers out of this race here, Jack, we've got ourselves John Elsweimer, Sam Whittam, Louis Sambini, and Evan Fitzgerald, who started the race. Jonathan Diggs and teammate Isanyemi didn't start the event.
Yeah, definitely a shame we didn't see the likes of Isanyemi start the event. We know he's fast, we've seen him in other series. We have seen him in the Classic IndyCar series as well, being fast. So, I'd like to know what happened to him, but obviously the drivers who we have out on circuit put on a great show today. We're into the final 10 laps of this race here at Sonoma. Claudia Swede has been your dominator of this race. He has led from the start. I think he's looking at a Leicester flag victory here, Will. But Andreas Werner and Henry Bennett, no one really knows what could happen here, as we see Andreas Werner just getting slightly sideways coming through turn number 4. The rear end just looking like a little bit choppy.
Yeah, we're on board right now with Andreas Warner from the rear of him to the driver of Henry Bennett. If you're Henry Bennett, and you know that Andreas Warner has made, and again, he's going to kill me after this race, has made 3 unforced errors here today, what do you do if you're Henry Bennett? Do you push him? And how hard?
See, if I was Henry Bennett, if I knew he was making mistakes, I would push him into making a mistake. Because, in that way, Andreas Werner is going to be under pressure. Sorry, Andreas is true. And he's going to make a mistake. And that's just going to let Henry Bennett have the position. Extra points for the championship means his championship maybe could stay alive.
Yeah, because right now in terms of that championship, actually Grosser's one with the upper hand. Not by much, but by enough that he'll move into 2nd place in the championship right now. And, you know, if Henry Bennett, even if he could find a way past Warner, I think that it's too late for him now to go for 3rd place. 4th is the best to get out of this motor race, which is still 2 places behind Robert Grosser.
Yeah, definitely, and that's obviously 2 places less points. Oh, is he going to look for a move coming down into the carousel? Yes, he is. Oh. Wow, that was a late move there by Henry Bennett going down into the carousel. Turn number 6, lap 67. He is up into 4th position, Will. Andreas Werner, I think, will probably want to fight that one back.
Yeah, he looks to the outside. Not going to do so. Looks to the inside. Gets a better run, then does the driver of Andreas Warner. The 2 make contact.
Oh, that was unlucky contact, but they're going to stay side by side coming through turn number 8. Down towards turn number 9, the chicane. Henry Bennett's going to be pushed off wide, and he is going to be spat back quite a way. Andreas Werner is going to hold that position in the end. Let's going to see what that gap is going to be. It's going just over a second there, Will. Henry Bennett's got to do that all again, but with only 8 laps left, don't think he's got much time to do it.
Here's a replay then. Henry Bennett, we're on board with him throughout this entire 30 seconds of fun. He starts off with Warner pushing wide, getting 2 wheels into the gravel. Bennett looks down to the inside. Gets the position made, but Bennett taking the tighter apex for the corner means that Andreas Warner is able to get onto the noisy pedal earlier. He looks to the outside first of all, in towards the double apex hairpin, as I like to call it. And then Warner moves himself back down to the inside. The 2 make contact once. Then the 2 make contact a second time here. Second contact actually did look like Bennett, not Warner.
Yeah, I haven't seen that second contact, Will, but that first contact, I'm not really sure. I think you just put them both down to racing incidents. These 2 are racing very close. But the gap is back to half a second, Will. Henry Bennett is there. He is definitely pushing, to get that position back. He wants that 4th place. He wants those extra points.
Yep, so then here is the driver of Henry Bennett. We're back on board with him once again. 6 laps to go. Bennett versus Andreas Warner. The battle for 4th place. The two have already had 2 bits of contact over the last few laps. This is going to be great.
Oh, it certainly is. I'm definitely looking forward to these last 7 laps of this race. I think we're going to get some exciting racing here in the Classic IndyCar Series from 2 of the best in this series. And we know these 2 guys are quick, and I just want to see how good they can be.
Well, Warner takes a different line. Actually, Bennett messed up that corner. You could just hear the tyres sliding into turn number 4 there. He just seemed to just be a little bit too aggressive on the brakes, but he does close up then through the carousel as they now head themselves down through 6 into 7 one more time. And I think for Bennett now, he's got to really make sure he sets up this pass, because he did an opportunistic pass down at the carousel a couple of laps ago, but he wasn't able to make the deal stick. Now he's got to find a way, I would argue, on maybe getting a pass over into the final corner or into turn number 2.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's either turn number 2, the final corner, or turn number 7. They're the only places that Henry Bennett can actually get a decent pass that he's going to be able to hold done. I don't think he's close enough at the moment. Still about 5/10 back from Andreas Werner in 4th position, but he's going to get close coming into the hairpin. Let's see how good a run he can get off the hairpin. Just careful on the power, up through the gears and off towards to start another lap. Lap number 70 we're on to now. 6 laps remaining on this race. Henry Bennett's running out of time, and he's running out of time very, very quickly.
Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, just after this broadcast, we've got ourselves the next round of the Skip Barber 2K World Cup from Aram Park here on RaceSpotTV, streaming live on iRacing Live. And don't forget, in 3 weeks' time, it is time for World's Fastest Gamer on iRacing. 4 weeks, 20 drivers qualify per race, and they've got themselves a chance of going to the Performance Centre in Woking, England, McLaren, to have the job of a lifetime. Join us for World's Fastest Gamer starting September 17th here on iRacing Live, RaceSpotTV, in partnership with McLaren. And you know what, Jack? I'm really looking forward to that one.
Oh, definitely, so am I. Obviously, we've seen some footage from another popular simulator title from World Fastest Gamer already with a GT3 car. We're going to have the Formula 1 car here on iRacing. We're going to be going all the bells and whistles with the MP430. Obviously, we see that in the Grand Prix World Championship Series. We're going to see it in World's Fastest Gamer, and we're going to see some of the best drivers on iRacing going for that final place.
Yeah, will it be Kroenke? Will it be Hutu? Will it be someone else who claims iRacing spot? Well, it won't be Hutu, of course, because he's already qualified for World's Fastest Gamer. He got himself an invitational the same way that we've seen a couple of other drivers, including Bonner House, get one for all the work he did on her over the course of the past few years. But Claudius Weed right now versus Robert Grossen. We've got to remember as well, of course, that we saw Bonner House winning the Visa Esports race that took place a few months ago as well. Henry Bennett, Andreas Warner, that's our big battle for the end of this motor race. But you've got to give a shout out very quickly to the driver of Claudius Weed. He is now 3.5 laps away from taking victory in this event. 28 seconds now ahead of Robert Grosser. He could almost do a pit stop.
Yes, he definitely could.
He could do a drive-through at the very least.
Yeah, I think even if he did a drive-through, it could make this race a little bit more exciting, but he's clearly not going to. He wants his win. And he is definitely up the front, as we just see a backmarker getting out of the way. The number 67 of Caton's Bobbersbacks down in P number 10, getting out of the way for Andreas Werner and Henry Bennett. Henry Bennett not being able to close that gap onto Andreas Werner. Gap still about 6/10. He's just maybe waiting for Andreas Werner to run wide, as just as he did coming through turn 2. Bennett's going to get right onto the back, coming up through 3 and 3A, down into 4. Not going to be close enough to make a move. Some gravel being flicked up there into the path of Henry Bennett. And, yep, he's just going to have to sit and wait even more, but he's running out of time. 3.5 laps to go, Will.
Yep, 3.5 laps to go then for Henry Bennett versus Andreas Warner. Warner is holding on for the time being in what has actually been a really good battle between these two. The one between Hewlett and Warner kind of ended too early, but these two have been putting on a fantastic show. Bennett does get a slower run then out of the 7 into 8 right now as they head themselves down towards the chicane, but I would argue that for Bennett, he has lost the advantage now because of the fact he's 4 laps longer on this stint over Andreas.
Yeah, definitely he's going to have slightly more worn tyres. His tyres are going to be a bit older, obviously 4 laps older. That's probably about 12, 13 kilometres. That's a long way on these tyres, certainly. And I think that's maybe he's just losing grip. He's not being able to set the right lap times. They're both doing 1:17.5s. And let's just see what the lap times are this time around. Yeah, Henry Bennett's 2 tenths faster than Andreas Werner. So Andreas Werner may be starting to struggle with tyres. But Bennett just cannot get close enough to make the move, Will. And I don't think he's going to be able to before the end of this race.
Yeah, you know what? I'm starting to think so too. It'll take a mistake by Warner in order to swing the balance in this one. This is for P number 4 in this event, but for Henry Bennett, this is more about thinking about the championship, because as it stands right now, he will lose 2nd place in this championship to Robert Grosser, who currently runs in 2nd place.
Yeah, and I think that's a shame for Henry Bennett. We know he is a good driver, but Robert Grosser has definitely just put in that slightly better performance today. He's sitting obviously in 2nd. He's 15 seconds up the road from Henry Bennett. Henry Bennett's had his fair share of issues, but Robert Grosser, obviously, he still cannot forget that spanner in the works for this championship. Lucas Laville, he's not here this week. He's going to have to take a drop week. He's got a rear of grid penalty for the next race, and I believe he will also have one for Las Vegas because he has 2.
Yeah. Well, no, he'll get one for Motegi and Kentucky.
Ah, yeah, true. Okay.
So Las Vegas will come down to an equal footing. Unless, of course, there's any more incidents between drivers on the run-up, and Bennett spins it around.
Oh, he managed to save it there. He's managed to keep it. He didn't manage to go all the way around. Probably a 90-degree spin there, but he has lost any opportunity of getting that 4th position now. With 2 laps remaining, he is 2.5 seconds back. He can't do it now, Will.
You know what? Andreas Warner just breathed a huge sigh of relief. And there's replay then on board with Bennett. Hello, 8,000 RPM mile trend. Well, that's the thing. Once again, it's a slow gear corner, and people have got to remember the way these Indy cars work is the fact that, you know, when they weren't designed, these cars, for being originally for road courses. That changed when Watkins Glen was the first track added as a road course in 2005. Not much time to talk about this because we've got ourselves Claudius Weed right now in the number 11 machine. 29 seconds is his advantage over the field so far. He is on the white flag lap, so 1 more to go then for him. In fact, we're down to about half a lap to go now for the driver of Andreas for Claudius Weed, as he now heads himself down. And Jay Culet actually just sets the fastest lap of this motor race, 1:16.649, as a little bit scruffy there is Weed as he exits the hairpin for the final time for this motor race. But no one's going to really complain, because this driver has put on a phenomenal performance. He has led pretty much every lap that he hasn't been on pit road for, and he has not had to put a foot wrong because he hasn't been in a situation to put a foot wrong. He had 1.5 mile spin, and that was down about 2/3 of the way into this motor race, but he had enough of a gap. He was easily able to come back from that one. But out of the final corner, Claudius Weed wins here in the Classic IndyCar Series at Sonoma. Waiting for second. Here's Robert Grosser. 2nd place for him. Jake Hewlett, 3rd place. But Andreas Warner and Henry Bennett is back together. Will Bennett try and make a last lap lunge here over Andreas Warner? There's lap traffic that just moves out the way. And Bennett, you can see immediately there, thinks about moving down to the inside. Down at the chicane, not able to do so. Can he do anything into the final corner? It will be a brave man to try and plant that car down to the inside now. Andreas Warner should just be able to hold on to 4th place, but Henry Bennett never made it easy for him. Grosser 2nd, Hewlett 3rd, Warner 4th, Bennett in 5th there, Jack.
Yeah, that was a great race there from the top 5, and obviously that battle between Henry Bennett and Andreas Werner is quite literally coming down to the last corner. Henry Bennett just not being able to do that. But 75 laps of quality racing here at Sonoma. That is brilliant to see, Will, as always with this series.
Yep, so here we are then, down, replay final corner. You can just see that Bennett wasn't quite close enough there as he exited the final corner. I'm just going to try and see if there's any politicking there between these 2 drivers at the exit of this. Yeah, there was a little bit actually. But then let's have a look through your final. race results here from Sonoma. Claudius Weed takes victory by 29.3 seconds over Robert Grosser. Jake Hewlett in third place, and Andres Warner able to hold on from Henry Bennett at the end to claim fourth. Bennett rounds out your top five. Sam Saunders in sixth, Dave Costello in seventh, Michelle Constantini in eighth, Hans Pitkanen in ninth, and Caton Bommersbach rounds out your top 10. Next up, Tim Miller in 11th place, Carson Bodway in 12th, Jos van der Ven in 13th, Shoemake in 14th, and Luigi Graffini in 15th place. Drivers out of this event, well, they are Andrew Adair Saunders, Jonathan Elwheimer, Sam Winton, Luis Ambini, and Evan Fitzgerald. We had two non-starters in this event. They were Timo Isinyemi and Jonathan Diggs. We'll step aside for a quick moment here on RaceSpotTV and on iRacing Live. We'll catch up with more after this.
Watch Ernie, go, go, go. Car right, car right, car right, car right. Watch him, watch him, watch him, watch him. Damn it! Get ready. Dude, more heads up in that. Jeez.
Right on the back wing. Can he make it happen?
Push like hell. We gotta stay in front of these guys.
Both drivers on the push to pass. Contact in the pit lane.
All right, sexy. Let that eagle fly. What do I do? What happened? Push here. Push hard. Let's go get this guy. Car outside. Through behind you. Tell. Clear outside. Good job. Just spun behind you. I don't know if you got him or not.
He got out of it so hard. Look at these guys are all over the back.
Full throttle.
IndyCar.
In and out lap.
What's next?
Come and get the checkers, big boy. Oh, baby, that was good. Hit me. Inside, inside, outside, inside, outside.
2017 Verizon IndyCar Series. See what's next.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to our post-race show here from the Classic IndyCar Series at Sonoma Raceway. Jack Stiles stood by with your winner, Claudius Weed. Apologies for that, ladies and gentlemen. Here's Jack Stiles stood by with Claudius Weed.
Yeah, sorry about that. So, Claudius, obviously, you said about a couple of mistakes. It obviously didn't hinder your race. You got it done today. You brought the car home. You're on victory lane. Your first win, I believe, in the Classic IndyCar Series. Just, who got it done for you today? Do you want to give any sponsor shout-outs?
Yeah, first of all, Robert, of course, for organizing and putting up the league. It's awesome. Also to the guys behind him, And yeah, maybe some friends and family who's watching or watch the race. We will speak later. And thanks to you guys also for commentating and broadcasting it. Awesome.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is Claudius Vies, your winner of the Classic IndyCar Series here at Sonoma. Also joining me is Robert Grosser, your organiser of the Classic IndyCar Series and your second place finisher today. Robert, just take us through that race. It was obviously a bit hectic. We saw mistakes from nearly everyone. You managed to bring it home second. You're only 4 seconds. You had only had a 4 seconds advantage over Jake Hewlett, though.
Yeah, first of all, congratulations to Claudius for winning his first race. Good job. Yeah, my own race, I did only 2 very small mistakes, and I think that made the difference today. Because from the pace, the other guys like Andreas, Jake, and also Henry were similar to me. But the first small mistake was the pass on lap 1 to Andy. It wasn't even intended. And the second one was slipping a bit over the curb, and then Andy got P2 back from me, and that's it. In the final stage I was just bringing it home. I was really in cruise control and trying to not make any stupid mistake, just to secure P2, which is important for the championship.
Now obviously, as you just mentioned in the championship, that's what I'm going to move on to next. We have no Lucas Laville here today. You've moved into second into the championship. Just obviously Motegi next round, Lucasville is going to have that rear of grid penalty. He's going to have to start from the back and work his way through. Same at Kentucky, because he has 2, I do believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. So obviously the next 2 rounds are crucial for you to gain as many points as you can over Lucas. So when we go to Las Vegas on the 15th of October, we definitely can see a 3-way battle for the championship.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would take the opportunity to send some greetings to my good friend Lucas, who is just enjoying the holidays. So enjoy, have a good time. Yeah, you mentioned the rear of grid penalties. The next 2 rounds will be very important. Don't forget Henry. He is absolutely capable of scoring big points everywhere. And yeah, this will be absolutely close battle till the very last race for sure.
Yeah, certainly. And Robert Grosser, who got it done for you today?
Yeah, first of all, thanks to you guys for broadcasting the race, and thanks to Logical Innovative Engineering, our title sponsor. Thanks to Joel Real Timing for providing the Clean Driver Award, and also thanks to the Lionheart Retro Series, who will provide the prize for the winner at the end of the year, the champion.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is your second place finisher and organiser of the Classic IndyCar Series, Robert Grosser. Will, back to you.
Well, thank you, Jack. That is all we've got time for here from the Classic IndyCar Series here on RaceSpotTV and on iRacing Live. Those of you waiting for Sunday Night Skippies, that starts in just 3 minutes' time here on RaceSpotTV and on iRacing Live. So thank you so much for being a part of our coverage here in the Classic IndyCar Series. 3 rounds remain. Motegi, Kentucky, and Las Vegas Motor Speedway. The championship, it ain't over yet. From Jack Stars and Will Vincent, we'll talk to you all next time. Good night.